The Nuggets are currently on an 8-game winning streak and have their best shot to take the number 2 seed. If they finish second, they get to play a play-in team first. They also would get home court advantage in every matchup except Oklahoma City. And I'm not sure why, but it doesn't really feel like an advantage, even though that's probably what they're aiming for. We're seeing a real power shift in the NBA, especially in the East, where teams like the Pistons and Magic are finally looking competitive. But the West is also experiencing its own shakeup, with teams like the Timberwolves and Mavs who are currently play-in teams, which is completely different from last year, where Minnesota made the Western Conference Finals, and the Mavs were in the NBA Finals just 8 months ago. Crazy how much has changed. If the Nuggets ended up with a 2 seed, they could potentially face a play-in team led by Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler with the Warriors, or an AD and Kyrie-led Mavs squad. That feels way more dangerous than what we've seen from play-in teams in past seasons, where there wasn't much to worry about. You see, it's hard to distinguish the past success of teams like the Mavs, Timberwolves, or even the Warriors with the level of play they're at now. I mean, what if we get playoff Jimmy Butler? He already took an 8 seed to the finals before. Why can't he do it again? And if the Warriors manage to get Jonathan Kuminga looking like a legitimate starting 4, they could give the Nuggets a real challenge. Maybe I'm overthinking it and these play-in teams are right where they belong. Perhaps it's not a fluke, but just a natural shift where even the worst teams can't stay bad forever. Meanwhile, the once dominant teams may be nearing the end of their reign, especially in the case of the Warriors. The Timberwolves, on the other hand, are still young and have plenty of untapped potential. With Ant locked in through 2029, they're only just getting started. But the Nuggets aren't just getting started. They're in their prime, with Jokic at the center of it all, and now is the time to capitalize. Even facing a tough series early in the playoffs could take a toll, leading to wear and tear. And if they do make it through those rounds, they'll still be dealing with fatigue, and with fatigue comes injuries, and with injuries comes getting knocked out by a team you should have beaten. If the Nuggets secure the 2nd seed and the Grizzlies drop to 3rd, we could see a Nuggets-Grizzlies matchup in the first round, assuming there are no upsets. One key advantage Memphis has over Denver is depth. The Nuggets have struggled with depth, especially after losing KCP, and they still haven't fully recovered from that. Heading into the trade deadline, I thought they were in a decent spot depth-wise, assuming they'd add a few key pieces, but they didn't. Instead, they're relying heavily on young players to carry the load when the starters are off at the floor. I like Christian Braun, Ignacy, and Julius Strawther, but they really need to bring in a veteran presence to balance things out. But of course, they didn't do that, and I expected them to make that move, but it never happened. On top of that, Russell Westbrook has transitioned into a starting role, which means he's no longer anchoring the bench unit the way he once did. While it's great that Russ has had a strong season, his absence from the second unit has hurt the team's overall depth. That's why the Nuggets starters have ranked top 2 in offensive rating for 6 straight seasons, yet as a team, they consistently land in the 4th to 6th range overall. Compare that to the Grizzlies bench, which features promising young talents like Scottie Pippen Jr. and G.G. Jackson, giving them an edge in second unit production. I'm not saying that the Nuggets' depth is necessarily bad. They have solid players who understand their roles, but what they lack is veteran experience. While their second unit may not stack up in overall quality compared to other contenders, Denver has an X factor on their team, and it's not Jokic. I truly believe it's Jamal Murray. Murray had a rough start to the season, and Nuggets fans weren't exactly patient with him. Many were calling for Mike Malone to bench him in favor of Russell Westbrook, but in reality, he just needed time to find his rhythm. Let's not forget, he was essentially playing on one leg when the Timberwolves eliminated the Nuggets in a grueling 7-game series last postseason. For much of that stretch, it didn't seem like he was the ideal sidekick to Jokic. Through December 8th, Murray was averaging 17.8 per game on inefficient 42, 33, 80 shooting splits, and despite Jokic's brilliance, Denver was just 12-10. This was a period when critics were saying the Nuggets were wasting Jokic's prime, but since then, Murray has turned it around, averaging 22.8 points per game on elite 50, 40, 92 splits. Denver has gone 24-9 in that span, and their net rating has skyrocketed to plus 8.3. Heading into the All-Star break, Murray also had a breakout performance, dropping 55 points with 7 3-pointers against the Trailblazers. It was more than just a statement game, it was personal. He was still carrying a grudge from being ejected for trash talking against Portland earlier in the week, and this time he let his game do the talking, completely dominating the matchup. This is exactly what the Nuggets needed, especially heading into the All-Star break, and they ended it on a high note. And speaking of All-Stars, it's hard to wrap my head around that Jokic has never played alongside a teammate who made an All-Star team in the same season. Yes, that includes Jamal Murray. Whether you believe Murray deserved an All-Star nod, or you think he fell into the same category as guys like Monte Ellis, or Lamar Odom, or even CJ McCollum, who also never made an All-Star appearance. The fact remains that injuries have held him back. Just look at the playoff picture. Cat has an All-Star guard in Jalen Brunson, who was actually an All-Star starter. Giannis has Dame, but Jokic, still no All-Star teammate. Murray didn't even get the call as an injury replacement after AD and Giannis were ruled out. Trae Young and Curry got the nods instead. Now, I don't think Murray not being an All-Star is an issue in itself. The problem is that he clearly has the talent but hasn't been able to stay healthy long enough to solidify his case. That's why we're in a world where Cade Cunningham, who has zero playoff experience, has made an All-Star game before him despite Murray already winning a championship. Meanwhile, teams like the Cavs have 3 All-Stars in Mobley, Mitchell, and Garland. Murray will likely go down as one of the best players never to make an All-Star team, but that's not exactly a title to be proud of. It's a reflection of how injuries have limited him, and that's why I see him as a Nuggets X-Factor. If things don't go well for Denver in the playoffs, it'll be because Murray couldn't return to form. We already know what to expect from Jokic, his triple-doubles, elite playmaking, and dominance in the paint. But Murray is the unknown variable. What he brings to the table will determine Denver's ceiling. He needs to be a top-tier point guard in the West. He has to outplay guys like Ja Morant and James Harden in a playoff series. The only guards he might not be able to outperform are SGA and Luka, but even then he can still outplay them in a single game. Luka's conditioning could be an issue, and Murray could take advantage of that too. But he has to be better than Kyrie too, because Jokic, as great as he is, doesn't have the foot speed to guard a healthy AD in the post. Then again, AD can't stop Jokic in the post either, so that's just going to be a battle. Ultimately, if Murray can put together multiple high-level playoff performances, outplaying or at least containing the opposing team's best guard, the Nuggets are legitimate title contenders. But what do you think? Is Jamal Murray really the X-Factor for Denver? Tell me in the comment section below. Until next time, peace.